Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be focusing on reflecting and translating shapes on the coordinate plane. Our goal is to show that mastery by scoring at least 70% on your exit ticket. Hopefully you have the note sheet in front of you. If you don't, take out a blank sheet of paper and we'll get you a fresh copy tomorrow. Now, when we talk about reflections, the big thing we need to keep in mind, you can reflect across the x-axis, you can reflect across the y-axis, or you can reflect across a line where x is equal to a number or y equals a number. You may also see something that reflects over the line y equals x, which, if I'm looking at a coordinate plane, that line would be what my blue is. We can also reflect over a line y equals negative x. In this case, I'll draw it in a different color. That would be my brown. So we have 6 different options on how we can reflect. The nice thing is they all follow the same steps. You just have to make sure you know which line you are reflecting over. If we look at our first example, we have triangle ABC and we want to reflect it over the x-axis. Now, I'm going to start by listing my points just to kind of help us. So A is at -3, 1, B is at -1, 1, and C is at -1, 4. Now, the key here is the x-axis. So I'm going to take a highlighter and I'm going to highlight where I'm reflecting over. Just so it's a visual, if you want to use a different colored pen, a different color highlighter, a colored pencil, just make it obvious to yourself where you're reflecting over. Now, from here to reflect, we have to count. Point A, if I look at my vertex of A, it is 1 step from my highlighted line. So I'm going to go 1 step down, and I'm going to put a new point. This is what we're going to call A prime. And that little apostrophe just means prime. It means I did 1 transformation to my original shape. Same thing for B. If I look, it's 1 step. So I'm going to go 1 step down, put my point, and that is B prime. C, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and put my new vertex. That's my C prime. From here, if I connect all the points, that new shaded shape is my transformation of a reflection. The thing to keep in mind with reflections, if you were to fold your paper along the line you highlighted or your reflection line, they should be exactly the same in the exact same place on the paper. Now, as far as my points, my new shape, A is at -3, -1, B is at -1, -1, and C is at -1, -4. If we look at number 2, we want to reflect over the y-axis. So again, I'm going to take my highlighter and I'm going to highlight my line that I want to reflect over, just to make sure that we know where we're reflecting. If you highlight the wrong line, unfortunately, if it's multiple choice, the answer probably still will be there. So make sure you're very careful on what you're highlighting. So if I look at point B, and I know the letters are off on this, point B is 3 steps from the line. So I'm going to go 3 steps, and I'm going to call that B prime. If I look at A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I double counted on there, it is 7 spots, so I'm going to go 7 spots, A prime. C is 3 spots, so again, we're going to count 3. That is my C prime. And D, since it is a rectangle, is 7 spots, so I'm going to go 7 spots. And that's my D prime. Whoa. Again, your new shape should be the same shape, just reflected over that line. If I were to fold that paper along that line, the shape should line up perfectly and it should match. Please also make sure that your A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime, make sure you're putting that apostrophe 4 prime. If you just put A, B, C, and D, those are the original points in the shape, and you want to make sure you can differentiate between the two. If we look at example 3, I'm actually going to change the problem. Instead of doing y equals negative x, we're just going to reflect over y equals x. From here, though, we need to make sure we're highlighting our line to know where we're reflecting over. If you forget what y equals x looks like as a graph, type it into Desmos calculator so you can see the graph and plot the points, because if you plot the line wrong, automatically your reflection is going to be wrong. It should be a straight line that hits 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Mine's slightly off, but you get the general idea. So from here, we're going to count. We're still counting. We're just counting to our reflection line. If I look at A and go from A to that line, A is a distance of 6 steps. Well, since I went in a positive direction, I need to make sure it goes over my line. I'm going to go over 6 steps, and I'm going to put my point. This is A prime. We went up first, which is positive, so then we need to go right or left. In this case, if I went to the right, I'd be on the same side of my reflection line. So we always want to make sure we're on the opposite side of the reflection line. If I look at B, again, I'm going to go all the way up to my line. And if I count my steps, that's going to take 8 steps. So we're still going to go 8 steps over. So in this case, and we're going to call that B prime. Now C, it's on the same line as B. It's just an extra 3 steps. So I'm going to extend it out, and I'm going to call that C prime. From here, I have my new shape. And the thing to keep in mind, again, if I were to fold it along that reflection line, it would be mirror images of each other. They would meet. A prime would line up with A, B prime would line up with B, and C prime would line up with C. Now, when we talk about translations, I'm going to skip the 4th example on reflections. When we talk about translations, you are moving both the x and the y. If we are talking about moving the x, if you are doing a positive move in the x direction, you are going to the right. If you are doing a negative move, you are going to the left. When we talk about y, if you do a positive move, you are going up. If we talk about a negative move, you are going down. And it's important to know that. Think about your axes. The positive x values are on the right side. The positive y values go up. So when you move in the positive direction, you either go to the right or go up. The negatives in the x go to the left, and the negatives in the y go down. So it still follows that same logic. The big thing to keep in mind with a translation, the shapes need to be, they need to be the same size, and they need to face the same direction still. So if I have a triangle, and my right angle is in the bottom left corner, even if I move it to the right and move it down, my triangle needs to be the same size, and it needs to have the right angle in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, they're also going to talk vertically and horizontally. Keep in mind, vertically is your y-axis, and horizontally is your x-axis. So in this case, if I say 5 units vertically, I'm going 5 units up. -3 horizontally means I'm going 3 to the left because we're moving in the negative direction on the x-axis. So from here, you can either find the points. So if I look at C, C is at 4, 3. Well, I'm going to add 5 vertically, and I'm going to subtract 3 from the x. That will give me my C prime, which gives me 1, 8. I could also count. I can go up 5 and over 3. It'll still give you the same answer. So you can do it algebraically, or you can do it by counting your points. If I look at B, B is at 4, 0. So again, I'm going to subtract 3, and I'm going to add 5. So B prime is at 1, 5. If I do the same for A is at 2, 0. So again, subtract 3, add 5. I get negative 1, 5. So negative 1, 5, A prime. If you look, my triangle's facing the same way. I have B prime in the bottom right-hand corner, A prime in the bottom left-hand corner, and C is at the top. So that is a perfect transformation. Translation, just moves it in a direction. This is a more basic one, but it's another way they can show you. We're going to move 3 units to the right and 2 units up. Well, this 3 units to the right is a positive 3 on the x, 2 units up is a positive 2 on the y. So again, you can either count or you can add to your coordinates. If I look at A is at 2, negative 3. So I'm going to add 3, add 2. A prime is at 5, negative 1. There's my A prime. If I look at B is at 4, negative 3, so plus 3, plus 2. B prime is going to be at 7, negative 1. So 7, negative 1. And I can continue. C is at 4, negative 7. Well, add 3, add 2. C prime is going to be at 7, negative 5. And D, please make sure you do all the points. Don't just guess where they're going to go, because if you make a mistake and you accidentally count wrong or you add an extra piece, it'll throw off your whole problem. And if one point is wrong, all your points are wrong. And there's my translated shape. So the thing to keep in mind here, A is still at the top left, A prime is still at the top left, B prime is top right, B is top right. So it's the same size shape in the same direction. Now, here's another example. So there's 3 different ways they can show you how to translate a shape. This says translate the figure x plus 6, y minus 4. Well, they already give you exactly what you need to do to the x and y. So in this case, I would pull the coordinates. If I look at A is at negative 6, 2. Well, it tells me up here, x we're going to add 6, y we're going to subtract 4. So A prime is now at 0, negative 2. If I pull B is at negative 4, 2. Again, add 6, subtract 4. So B prime should be at 2, negative 2. So 2, negative 2. C is at negative 4, 4. I'm still going to add 6 and subtract 4. So C prime should be at 2, 0. So C prime. So it didn't tell us whether we were moving left, right, up, down, horizontally, or vertically, but we can assume by looking at the translation, if I'm adding 6 to the x, that means it should move to the right. If I'm subtracting 4, that means it would go down. Well, if I look at my shape, my original shape, if I move it to the right and go down, we get my translated shape. Keep in mind with translations, it's just like solving an equation. What you do to one point, you have to do to both points. Try example 4 on both the front and back of your note sheets on reflections and translations. We will go over those in class tomorrow, so please make sure to bring that note sheet with you. I look forward to seeing you then.